Hey, what's going on guys? Alex here and I'm back for another video for you guys. So, in this video I'm going to be talking about 5 decks that were so bad that they just became broken once they received a bit of support. So, this is going to sound really weird because some of these decks you're actually going to think, oh, but these decks were actually playable. Yes, these decks were very playable, but the only problem with them, they were just inconsistent, they had issues, and then all of a sudden with one bit of support they all of a sudden became insanely broken and were some of the most stupid decks that the game has probably seen in a long time. So again, this is going to be my top 5 countdown for 5 decks that were bad but then became broken. So firstly, again, the rules to this list. The deck must never have been meta at all, okay? The deck must have had issues in the past like consistency, and then decks that were using engines like invoked engines, e.g. like Mech Knights and stuff, and artifacts engines will not be included in this list at all. So, starting off with number 5, we have Blue Eyes. Now, I'm going to get a bit of hatred for this. We're going to go back in time a bit. When one of the structure decks came out, I can't remember what it was called, where Maiden with Eyes of Blue came out and all that, the deck was actually seen, people thought was pretty decent. But it kind of wasn't. The deck was too predictable. Everything was, okay, I'm going to summon out a Maiden and wait for my opponent to make a mistake. Because that's all it was. It was basically, I summon Maiden, I make sure that my opponent knows what the heck is going on. My opponent picks up the card, reads it, and does an attack, and we just make it an unstoppable board while my opponent only has a Maiden. This is the only thing that Blue Eyes was lacking. It was lacking consistency, there were issues with it. But then, when Shining Victories came out, Blue Eyes received the best support that the deck could have asked for. There were cards like Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon, Dragon Spirit of White, Sage with Eyes of Blue that came out. Amazing, amazing cards that the deck just truly, truly needed. And when it came out, oh, guess what? It won Worlds, and with the Yu-Gi-Oh movie, I can't remember what the name of it, coming out, they got Blue Eyes Alternative Dragon. This was support that the deck just needed from the spot, and the deck went from just insanely inconsistent and bad to a deck that won World Championships in 2017. It was just 2016. It was absolutely crazy. I think that Blue Eyes right now is still a very viable deck, but it's just not as meta really. It got power crept quite hard only because decks like Burning Abyss and Monarchs got shafted during the World Championship, making it the deck that stood out the most, but still, it's still a good deck. So DDDs are actually going to be here at number 4, and people are going to be considering in their head thinking, wait, DDDs didn't top or anything. Well, 2017 was probably one of the worst years for Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's be honest, it was absolutely terrible. All it was if you didn't have Zodiac on your in your deck, you're pretty much good as gold. You're gone. DDDs, if Zodiac never existed, in my opinion, would have been one of the best decks of the format. It was explosive. It was struggling with so many things because the only thing that you could do was pretty much special summon out fusion monsters, and the fusion monsters just had no win condition. It will summon out a DDD monster that if your opponent burns me for damage, I would just gain it back as life points. That's pretty much it. It basically sounds like Aromages, but a bit different. DDDs were just poor. There was no win condition, but then Lamia came out and all these other cards like Siegfried came out, and we had an explosive synchro spamming deck that could maybe get like a Cyframe Lord Omega, a Crystal Wing, and a Siegfried out first turn. It was absolutely insane, and this is exactly what the deck needed. If Zodiac and stuff never existed in the first place, I think this probably would have been a deck that would have been worthy in the ban list. Heck, before even the Zodiac came out, DDDs were actually hit on the ban list in the OCG, because of the deck being so explosive and fast. This is exactly what the deck needed. But now, of course, now Link is here, the deck has pretty much died down. It's pretty damn hard to play it. Coming at number 3, we have Palios. Now, you gotta remember something. Palios were originally just a deck that was supposed to be like a sort of control-y, stunny kind of deck. It wasn't really that good. Again, the deck didn't have a win condition. But then Totally Awesome came out. And Totally Awesome was just the perfect rank 2 that the deck needed. Because don't forget, all these Paleo monsters, or quote unquote Paleo trap card monsters, all level 2. So going into Totally Awesome was practically easy peasy. And this is exactly what the deck needed. It needed a monster that was a win condition. Totally Awesome would basically just negate card effects and steal them, plus recycling frogs at the same time, including itself if there was none available in the extra deck. The deck went from a deck that was a completely kind of control-y and required other cards such as Relinquished and stuff, to a deck that was actually starting to top and even beat decks like Zodiac. And back then in that format, if you guys remember being in that format, I surely don't want to remember that, Paleo was actually a really good answer to beating Zodiac, and considering now the deck is still very, very playable, considering cards like Mr. Boy are still a thing, and frogs are really, really good in this deck. Of course, this is like not really an engine, it's more of just a deck that works really well. Coming in at number 2, we have Gem Knights. Now, this is actually probably the one thing that made me laugh the most of this year so far. Gem Knights have been a deck, well, were a deck in about 2015, 2014 that was just slacking. There was just nothing good about it. I mean, you had some 2007 100 beaters and like I think Master Diamond, Gem Knight, Lady Lapis Lazuli and all that sort of stuff, but the deck wasn't really that good. It didn't really have a good win condition. It was very repetitive and very helmet. But a lot of the time people were only playing Gem Knights just for a Seraphonite engine of just being able to normal summon twice while having a 2500 beater, a level 5 beater on the field that just allowed you to go into more plays. Like, this is why decks like Lightsworn use it, because that way you can go into a Minerva really quickly. But then Phantom Quartz came out, and this was the link monster that they needed, and when they received it, the FDK was created, and this is the problem that the deck had. Personally, I found this one of the funniest FDKs ever, considering this was just a deck that was completely bad and useless and old, to a deck that became an FTK variant deck, and it was all over the place. Trust me, people were topping with it at YCS, and this is before Sky Strikers and all that became available, and Nightmare Gogi. So this is when it was more of a wildcard meta, and this is what was so much fun to watch about it. It was just FTKs, 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 and it was consistent. That's the word, it was consistent, and that was the problem that Gem Knights had. They slacked consistency. But we're going to go to number 1 now, and if you guys can't figure out what number 1 is going to be, well then, you haven't been playing. Number 1 goes to Spiral. Spiral was released in 2016 and came out as an absolute failure of a deck. This was originally a TCG exclusive. The deck didn't have a win condition. It was mainly just a deck that was sort of just like a control deck, but was so easy to beat because of no win condition. Spiral Super Agent would come out to the field and then pop a card on the field, but then you had to make sure you had a drone in your hand so you could change the arrangement of the top 3 cards in your opponent's deck. That was it. There wasn't really much to say about the deck. It was really inconsistent. Before Maximum Crisis came out, they didn't even have a win condition. Sleeper came out, and this deck still slacked because there was no way in getting Sleeper out first turn. It was slow and required you to play other cards like Kaijus, and people were even playing Lightsworns in it. I don't know how that's even possible, but people did, and the deck was still bad. But then Helix came out, and Helix again was the support that the deck truly, truly needed. It was originally just supposed to come out as a link monster just to speed the deck up and give it a little bit of oomph, but then Helix just sped up the deck so damn quickly that it just forced an instant link spam deck that topped so many tournaments. In fact, this is probably one of the only decks apart from Teledad that Performance Pals that was actually forced Konami to even create an emergency ban list for the deck. The deck was too strong for too long, and the whole problem with the deck was that there was just too much that could be done with it. You could make about 3 Firewall Dragons and a Churia Beast and do all these sorts of loops in one turn. This is one of the reasons why people are actually playing about 12 hand traps in their deck alone just to stop these plays. The deck was pretty much a coin toss deck. If your opponent was playing Spiral and they went first, then you could pretty much kiss your ass goodbye because there was no way you were gonna win. Anyway, this was again the support that they needed, and nobody saw it coming. People saw it originally as, yeah, it's just a pretty good link monster. Came out in the OCG before us, and all of a sudden it was out of control. Anyway, that's it for this video of top 5 decks that were bad and became broken. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy the video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, leave a like and subscribe for some more juicy content. Anyway, my name is Alex, and I should have some, I should have some deck profiles coming out for you. I should have True Draco, Dinosaur Shadow, and probably a Light Swan deck profile. If you would like to see those, put it in the comment section below which one you would like to see first, and I'll make sure I upload it for you. Anyway, my name is Alex, and I'm signing out. Au revoir.